When people describe someone who has been through a great deal, they tend to reach for words like strong, resilient, wise beyond their years, and those words are not wrong, exactly. But they are incomplete. What they leave out is everything that lives underneath the strength, the specific, invisible architecture that difficulty builds inside a person. The ways it quietly rewires how they think and feel and trust and love, long after the difficult thing itself has passed. And the person carrying all of that architecture rarely points to it, rarely calls it by its right name. Because when you have been through a great deal, one of the first things it does is teach you that what you have been through is not quite enough to qualify as a great deal. There is always someone who has it harder. There is always the instinct to minimize before anyone else can. There is always the practiced redirection. I'm fine. I've moved on. It made me who I am, that closes the door before the conversation gets to what's actually inside. The room. This is what difficulty does to a person. Not just in the obvious ways. In the quiet, structural ways that become so woven into everyday life that the person mistakes them for personality traits. For just how they are. The first thing it does is reroute the nervous system. When a person experiences sustained stress, emotional instability, or prolonged situations they could not control or escape, the body adapts at a biological level. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes sensitized. The stress response system recalibrates toward higher baseline activation. Psychologists studying early adversity and neural development have documented this extensively. A nervous system that lived inside uncertainty for long enough doesn't simply return to baseline when the uncertainty ends. It remains alert, watchful, oriented toward potential threats, even in environments that no longer contain it. This is why people who have been through too much often feel uneasy when things are going well. The calm doesn't register as safe. It registers as the quiet that precedes disruption. It is why they can walk into a room and immediately feel a tension that no one else has named yet. It is why rest is difficult. Their nervous system was built for vigilance, and vigilance doesn't take days off simply because the situation no longer requires it. This isn't anxiety in the pathological sense. It is a perfectly calibrated response to a world that once genuinely required this level of alertness. The problem is that calibration for a past world doesn't serve the present one, and the person living inside it often doesn't know they're still running old software. The second thing it does is reshape what self-sufficiency means. Independence, for most people, is a choice. For someone who has been through too much, particularly if that difficulty involved people who were unreliable, who disappeared, who were present in form but not in substance, independence becomes a strategy. Not a preference, but a protection. If you never fully rely on anyone, no one can fully fail you. If you manage everything alone, there is no space for the specific kind of pain that comes from needing someone and finding them absent. This looks, from the outside, like strength. And in some ways it is. But it is strength built on a foundation of anticipated loss, and that foundation shapes everything above it. The self-sufficient person, who has been through too much, doesn't choose not to need people. They have quietly concluded, from evidence, that needing people is a liability they can no longer afford. If this is landing somewhere real in you, take a moment to like the video. It helps more people find conversations like this one. And if understanding the quieter, structural effects of what people endure is something you want more of, subscribing makes that work possible. The third thing it does is produce an empathy that is both remarkable and exhausting. When you have lived inside pain genuinely, deeply, in a way that left a mark, you develop a fluency in it that other people simply don't have. You can recognize it in others before they've named it. You know what someone who says, "I'm fine," while meaning something else looks like, because you have said it yourself 1,000 times. And so, you become the person people come to. The one who knows how to hold difficult things without flinching. The safe container for everyone else's weight. And the specific tragedy of this is the asymmetry it creates. You know exactly how to make someone feel seen and held. and you have no equivalent experience of being seen and held yourself. You learned to give this because someone needed to, and usually no one gave it to you first. Which means the very skill that makes you so valuable to the people around you was built in the absence of receiving it, and the absence persists, quietly, even as you give and give to others who rarely think to offer it in return. The fourth thing it does is make peace feel unfamiliar in a specific and disorienting way. Not undesirable, unfamiliar. When life is calm, when the relationship is stable, when the crisis has passed, and there is nothing immediately requiring your vigilance, something doesn't quite settle. It isn't that you are unhappy with the peace. It is that peace doesn't feel like what you were trained to expect. The nervous system that learned to function inside pressure becomes restless in its absence. And the restlessness is confusing, because you have been working toward exactly this. And now that it is here, you cannot fully inhabit it. This is not ingratitude. It is the entirely predictable consequence of a system calibrated to one reality, trying to exist inside a genuinely different one. And learning to inhabit peace, to allow it to land as safe rather than suspicious, is some of the slowest, most patient work that people who have been through too much are eventually asked to do. Here is the paradox at the center of all of this. The person who has been through too much is, in many ways, among the most capable people in any room. They have a depth of perception that comes from having looked at difficult things and remained standing. They have a quality of empathy that is rare and real. They have a tolerance for uncertainty and discomfort that most people have never had to build. And they carry all of this alongside a private exhaustion that almost no one sees, because the same experiences that produce the capability also produce the instinct to conceal the cost. They appear strong. They are strong. And they are also, underneath the strength, quietly in need of the same things they give so readily to everyone else. To be met where they are, without having to earn it. To be seen fully, not just the composed and functional parts. To receive care without it requiring performance or justification. What happens when you have been through too much is not simply that you become resilient. It is that you become a particular kind of person, watchful, self-sufficient, deeply empathetic, sometimes exhausted by the empathy, guarded around vulnerability, and profoundly skilled at making others feel safe in ways you were rarely made to feel yourself. None of those traits are permanent. None of them are the ceiling of what is available to you. What was built by experience can be examined by awareness, and gradually, carefully, updated. The nervous system that learned vigilance can learn, over time, what safety actually feels like. The self-sufficiency that protects you can soften enough to let someone in. The empathy that goes only outward can, with patience, begin to turn in your own direction. Adaptation is not destiny. What difficulty made you is not all that you are allowed to become. And the life that shaped you does not have to be the template for the one you are still building. You have been through more than most people know, and more than you have given yourself credit for. That deserves to be said clearly, and received fully, without qualification. What have you been carrying for so long that you've started to call it simply who you are? If this resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.